welcome to another episode of The Quantum Woman. I'm your host, Shamina Taylor. In our last episode, we talked about emotional mastery and the importance of it. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about triggers. And a lot of people don't like that word. They don't like the name of it. But let me just tell you straight up that we are triggered. And I'm just going to keep it just 100 with you because it's what happens. When someone upsets you and all of a sudden you're like in this emotional state that you have no idea what you're in, you're like, "Rawr!" Like this other side of you comes out and you're like, who that bitch? Like, where did she come from? Basically, right? And so that's who we're talking about today. When that like other side of you and you're like, I don't know who that is, but that person basically came out and showed herself, and I'm not really sure who she is. Okay, so triggers. Now, a trigger is something I believe, and this is my like non-psychological definition. And by the way, I am not a psychiatrist or a psychologist. I'm just a person who knows what the hell she's doing, and it's worked over and over again with thousands of my clients. I run a program called Accessing the Quantum through Emotional Self-Mastery. I've had hundreds and hundreds of women gone through that program and have literally changed their lives and become the master of their emotions. And one of the modules is called the trigger module. And one of my clients has taken that to the next level and has great results. And so this is what happens. You have someone behave a certain way, and then you get an emotional response where you're not really thinking clearly. You're just like, "Brr," and you're like, oh, I'm so mad. I'm so upset, or I don't know why this is bothering me, kind of thing, right? And you can start feeling like this feeling coming up inside of you, or like, you don't really understand why your logical brain now is like saying like, arr, like what is happening? So I believe a trigger is something that's dormant, laying underneath of us, and it's probably coming from something that's unhealed within us. It's an emotional behavior, emotional memory and behavior that's logged inside of our nervous system, inside of our memories. And when someone does something very maybe similar in behavior or causing us to have a similar emotional response, that trigger comes up, and that trigger could have probably placed in maybe when we were kids. It could have happened as, young adults, or something that took place to log the memory in us that now our nervous system and our bodies are like, right, with it. So neutralizing our triggers is obviously finding out that we have them. And in my program, I have an exercise where I have people, track all their triggers and spend a week going through, seeing how you respond to people, tracking them down. One of the things that I notice is that, sometimes our triggers don't always go away all the way, but our ability to handle and manage it becomes more accelerated and in a state of power rather than response, where you're just reacting. You're now being able to have a calculated response, like, how do I want to respond to this now? And growing up with a parent he was constantly digging at me my whole life, it was just everybody. I learned, I had a lot of triggers, but I learned how to manage them because, you can't always take on everything somebody is trying to do and say to you, right? Because they're saying it because they want to get a response from you. And sometimes people will come in with like low key comments, and they're looking to trigger you because they want to see you have like this emotional response. So they'll come up and they'll say, oh, you got that. Oh, or you just didn't know. Or they'll have a backhanded, compliment. People who lack emotional intelligence or have emotional mastery themselves will say things like that, or like, wow, you looked better when you were like 20 pounds heavier, or like, do you like your hair like that? Or I don't know. Sometimes feedback's great if you asked for it, but when it's not, and then you're like, oh, like, ouch, like, did you just actually say that? Like, okay. We then can now figure out what it is that's triggering us. So I always say, you got to become aware. And the only way you become aware is to witness. And if you can witness without reaction, then you're going to be ahead of the game and have more power over your emotions as you're going through the process. Now, I'm not saying like we're still always like, the last episode, we're still always feeling our things, but we're not directing it at anybody. So let's say you're in a situation, I get triggered if I feel like somebody might leave me. Like, we have three, the core wounds that we, and there's more, but, abandonment, unworthiness, and betrayal. And, you know, um, one of those things are going to be the ones that are going to be like, or all that are going to make you feel a certain way. And if someone had left you when you were a child, you might feel like when something comes up again, someone just maybe like going down the street, or, maybe your mom left you in the aisle at Kmart, and then you had this memory, and then you're like, you have that attachment issue where you're like, I need you close to me, or I need you to be here. But, someone might be going away for a week or two or something. And you get this triggered response. You're like, I'm so scared. I'm so scared. Like, I don't want to be alone. Or your trigger might come in because someone said to you, are you going to eat all of the cookies? And, you had a memory when you were younger, when you ate all the cookies and got in trouble, or went for an extra cookie out of the cookie jar and be like, don't eat that cookie, you're going to get fat. And, maybe the whole, just hearing the damn name or word of a cookie could just set you into like a state where you're like, oh my gosh, cookies are bad. I don't like cookies. And really, it's not even the cookie, but it's being told that, it's attached to some memory of, you being overweight. I remember when I was pregnant, somebody in my life had said to me, wow, you've gained a lot of weight. And I said it wasn't my husband, by the way, my ex-husband. I said, yeah, I'm pregnant, but it was like someone who was a male felt like they could say that I gained a lot of weight. I was already feeling a little chubby as it is because it was my second pregnancy. I knew how to gain weight when I was pregnant, because I gained probably over 100 pounds. Like, we had a running joke that I gained an Olsen twin when I was pregnant. I'm like, Olsen twins are like less than 100 pounds. I gained over that. I don't know what you call that. Olsen twin, like eating probably. I don't know. But I was really, really bigger. And, that stayed with me. Right. So you could see how you progressed in life. You'll see certain things will stand out as evident triggers for you. The best thing that I can say is that when you understand what triggers you, then you're able to neutralize it. Then you're able to do something about it. But if you're walking around like me, like, on the subway, being a hothead, responding to people, then, you're just going to be a hothead, having responses. This is where like keyboard warriors come in, where they just start, responding, because you'll see people, especially with posts that have been shared all over, you got people going off and, having responses. I'm pretty sure, when I started talking about money and wealth, a lot of people got triggered around that, because you know what? Money can be one of those things that trigger the F out of you, because, well, it's a very emotional game, and we're going to get into that in upcoming episodes about that connection with money and, why the emotions are there. Sometimes seeing people, in a relationship and you're not in one could trigger you. Like, damn, are they posting again about how happy they're on the Facebook and, or whatever it is. And it could be that friend that's in her fourth or fifth relationship for the month, but it's still making you mad because she should be posting that, but who cares? She can post whatever she wants, but something in you is saying, she shouldn't be doing that because it doesn't align with you. People can do whatever the hell they want to do, right? And it's how you respond to it. So if you're being upset about it, what's in you that's, having that reaction? Or, if here's the thing, people are not going to always agree with everything that we do. We're all going to have different opinions. And that's the beauty about being individuals and being authentic individuals and being real, raw and relatable, which I believe this is what my brand is and who I am. Because not everybody is going to have the same opinion, and being able to express your opinion is going to be really important. But a lot of the times people will feel that they can't because they're worried about what people will say about them, because there's something underlying in them that's not fully under their power and control. I see a lot of the time women who, especially in the self-development field, where, someone's talking about their wealth or their success, and you'll see the women who are in their victimhood and they're not quite fully all the way processed through sometimes with how they feel about wealth, get very triggered about it, because you'll see this posts start coming up. You'll see them commenting, complaining. That's not mastery. That's somebody who has not figured out for themselves why wealth works for, someone else, but not them. That's someone trying to bring you down and bring you to their level playing field. That's what people try to do when they poke at triggers. When they try to instigate. And when you get triggered individually by someone else's success, and then you go post about it, that's not showing your mastery. What first you have to do is check in with yourself and be like, hey, why am I being triggered? So I want you guys all listening to understand your part in when you being triggered and how you respond to it and what shows a woman in their mastery, as opposed to somebody who's being triggered and then going processing it and taking that and then becoming powerful with it, right? So check in with yourself, see where you get that response where you're like getting, I want to punch someone in the face, or when you're having this, you're not being in your power. Like driving used to be a really big deal for me because I'm always late. I'm on spiritual time. And I'm like, what is wrong with these mother effers? Like, just, do you know where the gas pedal is? Do you know where your brake is? Like, hit the gas. And because I was late, I'd want everybody to get the hell out of my way. So that would trigger me, right? Because I'm like, get out of my way. And I started to learn, like, okay, the more anxious I get, the more chaos I'm going to create. The moment I lean back and I'm like, okay, nothing I can do about this, just trust this process. All of a sudden, all the lights go green. Everybody gets out of my way. It's like the parting of the seas happen. But the more anxious I get and I'm sitting there like, crazy. Well, what happens is more chaos gets attracted to me because we attract what we're being in any second, because energy has no time. It's like you can change anything, any state, by changing who you are and what you are. And that's coming in upcoming episodes. But this is why it's so important to understand the mastery of self, because and understand how your triggers can affect what your current vibration is when you're going out, right? Like I said, if you get upset, be all the way upset through. Find out how long it takes you to process something before you do something about it. But why, if you don't know that you're in a triggered state and you go take action in that trigger state, you might be very regretful about who you were in that state, because it wasn't the version of yourself who is the master of her emotions and in her power. It was the little girl in you or another person, a stage in you, who is repeating something that happened in the past that she hasn't felt all the way through. And then she's taking the current circumstance and then using that to take everything from the past in that moment and give it to somebody else like it's theirs. That's not fair. We have to be responsible for who we are in every single moment of where we are and how we bring our energy and our person to other people and other places. So being able to be the master and being able to process and being able to understand first happens when you are aware of what triggers you and then what you can do about it. This is something that I help many women through because they don't understand where their triggers are, or they don't understand what to do with their triggers. And, my program, Accessing the Quantum Through Emotional Self-Mastery, is a program that's going to really help you understand that. All right. This is the wrap up for episodes on triggers. I will talk about it more because it is something that is, you can never talk a lot, enough about, because you'll see, when people get triggered over politics, or they get triggered over, especially the thing that just happened recently with the world, when people wanted to do that. Everybody's entitled to their opinions. When you try to alter someone's opinion, you're putting yourself into a state of not power. You get to be in your opinion. You get to say what you want, but only until you have mastery of self and you're fully authentic in your messaging and your voice will you be able to stand and say, this is what I believe, this is what I feel, and that's it. Obviously, if it's to your community or to your people in your life, you're going to be in a way where it's of power and not like, this is how I am, just take it or leave it. Because people who are just this who I am, take it or leave it, I'm never changing, are probably the people who are the most least masterful in their emotions, because they're never expanding, they're never moving, they're never evolving, they're staying exactly who they are. And if you want to become the most ultimate, powerful, best version of yourself and become that quantum woman, she's always evolving. She's always changing. She's always improving. She's always becoming who she's always meant to be, right? And staying stuck in your ways or just being who you are is not going to be a woman who's of her power. So that ends today's episode on triggers. Track your triggers this week. It's powerful. Write them down, keep them in your notes in your book, walk around with them. I have a client that still to this day, she's worked with me for a year, that still has her book everywhere she goes, because she's mastering it. She's working on it. It took me 10 years to get to this day to really understand and control. And what I teach you in my program is what I coach women in my masterminds, and hopefully from this podcast and from everywhere else that you're in my world, you're going to understand what it means to be the master of your emotions and being able to understand why you are reacting and not responding in a most powerful way. Go download my wealth meditation. It's on my website at shaminataylor.com. You can go connect with me on YouTube, Shamina Taylor channel, The Quantum Woman, or find me on Instagram on Shamina Taylor, or get me on the Facebooks. I hope you have the most amazing day. And remember that the power always lies in you, and you are a woman that gets to make a choice of how you want to be, act, and feel every single day. And I hope it's a powerful one. Bye for now.